Yeah. All right. Okay, it's 7 o'clock. Let's go ahead and start the meeting. Okay, Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mrs. Dobson,
Here.
Mr. Earhart,
Here.
Mr. Mitchell,
Here.
Mr. Aravallo,
Here.
Mrs. Dominic, Mr. Sly, Mrs. Squire. Here. Mr. Welsh. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Very good. Thank you very much. And on the agenda, I believe we have a change.
Yes, if we could table item number 3, which is a preliminary or a final plat of Woodland Crossing South. There are some changes that could possibly, because of the stormwater drainage and things that could come through.
Okay.
We just need a motion to approve
Yes.
the agenda as presented by staff.
Yes.
I'm moved to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented by staff.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Start the voting on the left.
Aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0-0. Okay, citizen participation. This is an opportunity for anybody in the audience that would like to get your 2 cents in. Anybody have anything that they would like to speak? Anything on your hearts or heads that you'd like to talk about tonight? Okay. All right, moving on to formal commission action. Approval of minutes from the June 1st meeting.
A motion to approve the minutes from the June 1st meeting.
Second. Excuse me, second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. All right, preliminary plat application 93-2023 for Plaza Village.
Well, good evening, everyone. I hope you had a good 4th. So,
Got all
looks
things
like
fingers and
everybody's
toes.
fingers at least are there. I'll look at your glasses. I'm sorry. So this is the preliminary plat of Plaza Village that we had looked at as a review item. What we're trying to do, anything that we try and bring it up prior to, if there is some questions, and then we also saw this and the rezoning of it. And it really hasn't changed since the rezoning. The developer did allow us to show it at the rezoning. It's 13 lots, is now R2 zoning. It's 4.4 acres. And it's Payne and Brockway is the engineer. The access point from 217th Street, it is required to provide additional open space than what is there. So in those cases, we charge $300 per lot park impact fee. So they will be charged $300 per lot park impact fee. The excise tax on their final plat will be calculated with the improvement agreement, and that will be brought to you at a final plat stage. The comprehensive plan, as we've gone through it, it shows like a mixed commercial use there. As we all discussed in the rezoning application, that we felt like that this was a good transition, right just east of the commercial that was there. And this had been all zoned C2 commercial. Streetlight plan will need to be submitted. Other than that, we're open for questions.
So basically, it's the same, what they presented before.
That is correct.
Now, this size plat doesn't require 2 entrances.
No, it does not. It's been reviewed by the fire department.
Okay.
What's to the north of this?
To the north, actually, there's a
Who
small.
owns that?
Right, the small tract right directly to the north of it is owned by this developer. We discussed during the rezoning, you may not have been here, Cindy, I can't remember to be
I wasn't
honest.
here last month.
Okay, so they are planning on trying to possibly use that. There was a lot of ideas thrown out. One idea that they have is some storage area that would just be utilized for this subdivision there. Years ago, when this was put in, instead of forcing or applying the code on Dollar General to actually have true right-of-way through there so that we could also possibly at some time access, additional access to Race Street or down to the, right there, the city owns that building
Right.
there is the community center, thank you. They just put in a ingress egress easement of like 20 foot.
So that's how they would
So-
get that storage.
Yes, and that is correct. They can utilize, and it's more driveway access than to be able to get it to be a city street. So that's how they would access that.
That was, you knew where I was headed. That was what.
Right. And we, hindsight's always 20/20, but back when Dollar General was brought in, really what should have happened is there should have been some right of way put across there instead of just a small ingress egress easement.
I didn't know if it was developable or if it would.
Because it really would have helped the community as well, because I'm sure that we could have gone in with a developer with very little funds and, or even, a swap on something, excise tax, maybe use the excise tax towards it and put an entrance in to go to the, community building and also help out with Ray Street and all as well. But to go up through there, we did explore the possibilities of going up and connecting into Race Street on this, so that everyone knows. Just the money that it would have cost the community to do that alone, it was not feasible.
Well, I mean, he could take it and develop it into a nice park for the
Right.
residents there too.
And he actually, we'd had some discussion with someone on it, and I don't know if it was actually the owner or the engineering about, they could utilize that for some of their park area and reduce their impact of,
Parking,
all right, $300 per permit. And they may still come to that. They may want to look at it and say, we'll save, 1326, $7,000-8,000 of park impact fee, and eliminate that, so all options are open for him at this point.
So this may sound like a dumb question, but the blue line is at least on my picture, the blue line is the property line, or is that the,
Let's see,
this looks like
Oh,
it's
let me
an
look.
Ames map.
the blue line on your second page is the property line now.
Okay, but it's showing the black line that's going wider than that.
Well, on the preliminary plat that is on page 2, the lines that run through there, you'll see a double line across there. That's some easement area through there and all. The far outer edge line is just of this preliminary plat.
Okay.
But if you look on page 2, the actual property right now is, that is your outline of the property as it sits now. And this preliminary plat and then the final plat will be, transposed on top of there, and then you'll be left with the property to the north.
Yeah.
Oh, I see the other page you were looking at. Yeah, there was a discrepancy in between Ames and what was being no, this is actually Beacon and what is really the property, so.
Okay.
And they had just transposed that over Beacon at the time, so you can see how far off Beacon was on that. I'm sorry, I wasn't looking at the next page.
Well, I was
so.
just trying to,
Yeah.
figure out if it seemed odd.
And that's the discrepancy between Beacon and the true property there. But at that point, what we went ahead and put it, or Amy did, I'm sorry, I didn't do this. What Amy had put in is what you guys were shown at the last meeting, cause that's all we had at the time. And this is now true engineering on it, on page 2. Page 3 was put in because that's what was shown to you at the rezoning hearing. So you can see there was quite a discrepancy in accordance to what Beacon had on it, so. That's why we really, off the subject a little bit, we're really cautious on using Ames or Beacon, but Ames is much greater detail on showing people, hey, yeah, that's your property, you know? Cause that right there can show you what kind of trouble you can get into pretty quick.
So there's no monument sign for this?
They at this time, they did not put one. I told them if they wanted to surpass, because monument signs, if a monument sign is brought to you at a preliminary plat, you have the right to allow almost any type. Dayton Creek's an example. Our sign regulations would not allow that at all. But I mean, it's nice, don't get me wrong. So we told them to place it, and we tell every engineering, if you want something special, place it on your plat. There was nothing put on the plat, so to put up a monument sign now, they will have to adhere to the sign regulations or bring it back to planning. So we're very adamant on, we like to see those on there, because lo and behold, it'll come up, it'll want lights and things like that that aren't allowable except with you guys' approval.
And those are usually put in a tract of land, right? I don't see a tract of.
No, sometimes.
Okay.
A lot of them, or some of them, as of late, have been put on a corner property, and it's a private easement owned by the Homes Association. Yes, if there's enough room, yes, they do try and put it on a tract of land. Most of your big subdivisions, that is correct, you know, there's enough room.
And on this preliminary plat, it does show a sidewalk going on both sides of the street, is that correct? All the way around?
It does.
Okay.
Troy. Well, I might as well just say, the code does not require that. So, but yes, it does show.
It looks like I see one, so.
Yes, now they could come back and, you know, ask for that to be, because the code doesn't call for it, but at this point in time, it does show sidewalk all the way around. And actually, these developers are really big on sidewalks, and, Brad, we've talked to him several times about adding additional sidewalks in some of the other areas that he's building in, so, or he's asked us, along with, you know, the real cognate on where the streetlight placements are. We're working on one right now, we're trying to get Evergy to move, so I didn't even see if they're in here yet. Are they here? No, they didn't show up, so. Probably because he has another meeting with us tomorrow. So,
He doesn't live that far away.
yeah, no, that's right. So really, nothing really changed from what was presented with the rezoning, so. Any additional questions?
Motion?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Recommend approval of preliminary plat application quadruple 093 2023.
Second.
Plaza Village.
It's been moved and seconded. Start the voting on the left.
Aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. Table, or Action item 3 has been tabled, so moving on to discussion. Preliminary plat pre-application for 207th and Renner Road.
Excellent. Thank you. So, as I said earlier, we're trying to, do the pre-planning and make sure that, we're all in line on, what different projects look like ahead of time, where also, the cost of doing these subdivisions, just strictly engineering or the layout, and if you have to go back and forth, it really does add up. And I think that we've seen in this area up here, meaning 207th and Ridgeview, where one of them we thought was gonna be pretty good, and then it just got overturned and, it was a mess there. Are we on Tom's? No, we're on Tom's.
I'm on Thomas.
Oh, I've got discussion
Oh,
item.
okay, here, I can do it.
That's okay. You had discussion 2 on
No.
Tom's. It doesn't matter, we can do Tom's, or,
Let's do this.
So, sorry about that. I had written discussion item number 2 on the next one, so sorry about that. So this, as you can see, is just east of Woodland Ridge. That's the infamous, I don't know, we call them ponds, I don't know what they are, honestly. They're at Woodland Ridge that, and then you have the subdivision, and you can see there's a floodplain actually down that middle there. Just across from this is the 207th and Ridgeview, and then to the west of that is the park ground, if we can remember. So if you go across the street and you see the strip of ground that is, you see the houses, the existing houses with the cul-de-sac and all there. Right across there is park-owned or city-owned park property. So what we've talked to them a little bit about is tying into that and working through the whole trail system. You can see that they show some areas there that connect into that through a corner area there. They've laid it out on what they anticipate with some green space amenities that would be able to catty corner across there to tie into the park ground. Mixed residential, duplex, clubhouse, then just in standard fashion, keep working back to single-family residential. And you can see they have some trail systems shown on here down in a couple of different corners down there as well. Trying to jumpstart a good trail system to be able to go in through the whole area there. So this is a layout that they've proposed, and I'll let the design team talk a little bit about it, if you don't mind. They can talk a little bit. Sure. Go through it. Great.
Thanks, Pat. Good evening. I'm Jake Basha with SEH. We're the engineer for the developer, which is Bridger Development. So just gonna run through this real quick. If you guys have questions, feel free to interrupt me, but I'll try to hit some high level points. So looking at, as Pat mentioned, some single family on the south side, duplexes kind of mixed in towards the middle and to the east side. And then also we have a mixed residential area. So zoning for the mixed residential would likely be an R3 or some type of planned zone. The duplex, we would anticipate R2 zoning, and then single family, we would anticipate R2 zoning as well. So the developer does plan to have a fair amount of amenity space. As Pat mentioned, we have floodplain on both sides of us. So the entire west side is all floodplain with Sweetwater Creek, and so that makes for a really good area for some type of trail system to start on the south end and work its way north. And then, as you mentioned, it would continue into your park ground north of the site. And I believe that's kind of a linear piece of property, so it lends itself well to a linear type trail. We do show kind of on the west side, kind of that double dash line, looks kind of like a boulevard. We kind of emulated what was in the comp plan, but also noticed that in the comp plan, it also continues north of our property, and that wasn't necessarily platted in the preliminary plat for the property to the north to continue. So although I think it's a really good idea to have a connector, at least a collector, street that heads south to 215th Street to kind of connect in, we do want to get some feedback from you folks and staff on if that boulevard is necessary and should be planned for in that area, as well as
Jump in
Ridge
there real
Road.
quick. On that, I'm sorry,
Yep,
let's jump
go
in real quick. We do anticipate, but as it is drawn in our comp plan and just basically a line drawn, with a brush, we do not anticipate in making any developer build a single serve street, single side meaning. So that will most likely shift into the development where there may be a horseshoe or and a cul-de-sac off of it and things like that. It's just not cost effective to do that, nor is it cost effective for the city to maintain something of that nature. Because if you think about it, you are maintaining a street that's not truly utilized on both sides, but by tax-paying residents. It's sometimes we forget to look at that side of it. So most likely we anticipate that to shift into the middle where it can be used a little more just in the plan. And also will provide some more accommodating backyards up against the floodplain and park ground and all. So there'll be some adjustments to this. The main focus will be on, is the layout something you can envision through there and work with? So, thank you.
What road are you talking about?
It would be
This-
the west road.
The one that backs up to the green space.
That's correct, the west one.
So there, Pat's saying it'd be double loaded with residential on both sides.
And then also Ridgeview Road, kind of it's a T intersection at the north, east corner of our site. Comp plan also shows that running south to 215th Street. Obviously, we kind of show it, a road internally tying into that future road, so that's something we'll also kind of want to know as we move forward with our planning on our site. So again, work with you guys and staff on whether or not that's going to happen and we need to plat for that right away or not. Developer does intend to use special assessment financing through the city to finance the public infrastructure. The mixed residential area is a little bit unique. The developer wants to do kind of a mix of townhomes or apartment type style housing that we've done in previous projects. It's a little bit unique. I don't know if you included pictures on this, Amy. Yeah, so this is a similar site. This is kind of what the developer envisions. So these are apartments made up of fourplexes, duplexes. The second one on the right, kind of in the middle, is a sixplex there. Probably not that large, but basically a mix of different housing and apartment or townhome finishes, building styles, kind of mixed onto one property. This actually did win multiple national planning awards. It's basically apartment style living with on-street parking, common space, alleys, and a walkable community. So some of the zoning restrictions now within R3 don't exactly align with what this would accommodate, so we'll have to look at whether this is a planned area or we just go for, certain waivers. But we'll be in discussion with Pat on that. So yeah, that's kind of our intention for that mixed use residential area. And then duplexes are pretty straightforward. I think everyone knows what those are, but, and then single family and plenty of, amenities, including the floodway areas that will remain. Obviously, we don't intend to fill in the creeks, so those will remain wooded or green space areas and hope to accommodate, with some trails and other things. And developer did mention a clubhouse as well, so amenities like that for the community, or for this neighborhood specifically. I think that's everything I wanted to mention, so. If there aren't any
All
questions?
on-street parking?
There's a mix, so there's garage parking as well. And there's also off-street parking.
Is garage parking in the rear?
Yep, it's in the alley, so yeah, you look at that picture and you can kind of see the garage
Yep,
on the
I see.
right there, yep. And then, with those garages, there are some units above, those are referred to as carriage houses, where you've got a unit above, it's a one bedroom above three garage stalls. And those garage stalls are all single rentals.
My first thought with on-street parking is what are they gonna do when it's snow season?
That's what I was getting ready to ask. How do you get them off of the street to
So-
plow?
So a lot of these streets are actually going to be privately owned. So a lot of it would not be city-owned streets. And the ones that are looked at in being city-owned streets, or they would ask them to be city-owned streets, we would have to work on that and take a good look at it, so.
So these would be apartments that are maintained by you guys then?
This particular development here, if I have the right one that I looked up, these are private streets.
No, these are public streets in city.
Those are there.
Yep, but there are alleyways
I missed that.
back behind the public streets that accommodate the garages and other on-street, or not on-street, off-street parking.
But that's something we'd have to look at then, for the on-street parking. We would take a good look at that. One thing I will tell you that the ones, and it didn't look like there was right away on that map to me, but on the, I did notice these developments, all their, as you can see in the previous picture shows it better, wide sidewalks, good, flow for, alternative, walking, biking and things like that.
Aesthetically, it's wonderful. I'm just, aesthetically, it's great. I just went, it's Kansas and
Yeah, we'll look at that. Well, this is actually, is this the one in Kansas here?
This one's in Papillion, Nebraska.
Okay.
oh, well, you're just
So-
as bad there. You know exactly where that's.
Yep, they seem to make it work there, so.
What do they do?
So-
I mean, is there space that they could go into the, I don't know, anyway.
Well, we'll definitely take a look at that, and that's good feedback for us
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
to
That's
talk
what we
about.
wanna know. What are their concerns with something like this?
So-
What pops out at you?
There's, everybody's parked on both sides, let's say
Yeah, he did.
6 PM, 7 PM. How wide are the streets? And then if it's all lined up, is there enough room for all the emergency crews to get through?
Yeah, so your emergency crews need 24 feet wide, and we are very knowledgeable on emergency access after having done this, because it's very tight, and they're very strict in Papillion. So your emergency access is 24 feet wide, so the alleys have to accommodate that, and so do your streets as well, even with the parking. So typical parking is, parallel parking is 8 feet wide, so 2 8-foots, and then you have a 24 in the middle, so that's a 40-foot wide street.
And you see that on that picture, there's a lot of room between the vehicles. I know it's hard to see, but you just turned like the truck sideways, you can see.
So are these maintenance provided?
Yes, these would be public streets, the way this.
No, I
one-
mean the
no,
apartments
the
and everything. Are they
apartments
all
and
maintenance
everything.
provided or?
It's unclear at this point what
Okay.
the developer's approach will be. They could be townhomes that are sold off on separate private lots. This one accommodates completely owned by the, I'll say managing.
Or maybe different sections would be different ways too.
Yeah, it could be, yep, and this one's the same way. There are certain areas that are townhomes that you can purchase and you own it, but it is maintained by the HOA.
What about storm shelters?
Yep, you gotta accommodate storm shelters as well. So, yep, those are usually usually what we've done on those is those carriage houses that have the three garages below. The three garages below become a storm shelter in one of those carriage houses with the one bedroom up. So that's how we did it on this site. Don't know if it would be the same or not, but that's something we do have to take into account.
I got a couple of comments. Overall, I like the concept, the aesthetics, and I appreciate the attention paid to the trails and how it ties into the city park, and I can see how that works. I'm fine with the use. I guess my concern, and knowing how public hearings have gone here before, are some of the zonings. The questions you're gonna get are, if you're doing single-family residential, why don't you just do R1? So you have to be prepared to answer that, because we just went through that.
Yeah,
And you'll get a lot of pushback on that.
Sure.
Because they're gonna think we'll zone this, you'll propose single family, but you'll just come in and do duplexes.
gotcha.
So be prepared for that. And on that note too, my personal view, I prefer plan districts, because that gives this board a little bit more control
Sure.
versus just, we approve a zoning and then you just kind of have at it. So I guess my preference is, you can still achieve that if this was all, if the single family went to RP1 and duplexes went to RP2 and so forth.
Gotcha.
I think you can still accomplish this, and I think I think the community would have a little bit more comfort on that front as well.
Sure.
So those are really my only thoughts on it.
Sure. Yeah, I don't mind plan developments either. I think the biggest waiver we would be looking at is setbacks. You can see from this photo that the setbacks from the property is 10 feet in some areas, some areas less. And in R3, your setback's 35 feet, so it just wouldn't accommodate this type of layout, so.
And we haven't really discussed it, but it'd most likely be planned developments through this, so where we can work with the setbacks, work with the alleyways and things like that. And in looking at that, you are correct. I was looking at the alleyways were publicly or privately owned, so.
Okay.
I think that was
Well,
good
thank you for your
for you there.
feedback. We'll see you.
I didn't comment, but I do like it. I think it was very nice.
Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you, folks.
So, thank you.
Thank you
So,
for coming.
what we would like, is, comments you'll think of as the days go on here. If you can just shoot them to Amy or myself, and then, we'll start discussing all the design and layout criteria and all that of it. So, but we wanted to make sure that we got before the board to be able to start accommodating like the thoughts and comments. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. Okay. Are you ready for discussion item 2? Okay, so discussion item number 2. The developer, the city had, did attend it, but was not in charge of it. They had a open house meeting down, at the community building on this development. This development has a lot going on here, which a good portion of it, or a portion of it, let me put it that way. The commercial is already established, and zoned and all. And a lot of it, so this developer has gone in and tried to change it and accommodate it more in a manner that would support the commercial, also support a trail system, again, connecting into the park project eventually over there to the west. And also take in mind that this could be a really good commercial hub for the community. Right off of 199th. And you can see on the right, that's Prairie Ridge. And then on down at the bottom of the map, you're getting across from the school district, south of the school district. The school district is north of this. This does go all the way to 207th, and both 199th and 207th are slated to be improved. We're working on plans with 199th right now. Construction, I think, is supposed to start next year on 199th. And in conjunction with this, the developer would like to go ahead and start, putting in the turn lanes and things like that in conjunction with 199th and not just wasting money, basically. That's all there is to it.
Are they gonna curb and gutter it on the south side?
Well, there's some discussion right now of with engineering and city administration as to whether to curb and gutter it. Not just the south side, but the north side as
Right,
well.
that'd be great.
So, well, and I think this is the time to do it. I mean, this developer really wanted to get started. We had that meeting 2 months ago down there, and he wanted to get started then. The reason he was not able to is we asked him to hold off. There was 2 reasons why. One of them, though, was the street. And the city was not far enough along in the 199th plans to, to even, I guess he could have went ahead and started cutting his streets and all in, but we don't want to make mistakes if we can help from it. It's a large development, it's a very large development. Of course, it'll be built in phases. But overall, you can see that there are 3 off of 199th entrances. There's 1 off of Renner Road, and there are 2 off of 207th. So it's not lacking in entrances into this development. Not saying saying though that there could be an additional entrance that might need to go into the commercial area, depending on whether or not some of the city's grandiose plans come to fruition there in this area. So, but for as it sits now, it really does lay out well. It flows well if you look at it. There's a large area through there of what we're going to call area detention here, even though it's in a multitude of detention basins. One that would be controlled by the other and on down the way. So if it was a light shower, the upper basin would probably just be open. It would come into the next one, and then your lower basins there where they come together, those might have gates on them that are closed on a light shower. On a larger shower, the upper basins would close. And anyway, you're controlling your floodplain or your stormwater much better. There's some of these that are already built in Overland Park, a series of ponds with gates that go up and down that some of them are controlled by stormwater management, whatever that organization is. It might even be emergency management, I'm not sure. And we would look at maybe being able to utilize that technology on this. Putting a detention basin on every little corner and all, we have finally figured out that out there at 183rd Street, the area detention out there for the industrial has worked very, very well. And there's not just a bunch of mosquito ponds out there. So that's the layout through there. As you can see, there's all types of, there's some duplex areas. There's the one area is a villa area. The multifamily acreage, there's 9 acres of it, but most likely that's probably going to just change to all like a duplex type area. And then in this, it's an older gentleman that owns this, and multifamily in his mind sometimes also is like fourplexes and all. So as far as apartments, no, there are no apartments specified here at all. There were when the meeting down at the community building, and he graciously just took it right out.
So that community meeting, was Prairie Ridge represented pretty well? I mean,
Yeah, Prairie Ridge was. Actually, it was sponsored by the chamber, And Sharon had called me and she said, we're just not getting many RSVP or
RSVPs.
thank you. And so I actually walked Prairie Ridge and handed out flyers for it and all. There was quite a few people there. And maybe I've told you this story. For the most part, most people said, "Oh yeah, great. Are you going to make sure they get a Chick-fil-A?" As we've seen before, there are very few people that show up to meetings that are for something. You have a handful of people that are always against something, but for the most part, I mean, I don't know. I bet I handed out 30 flyers. And most of the people, that was their comments. I made sure that I talked to every person along 199th on there. And, you know, really there was a real nice older lady there and she said, well, I just want something there so I don't have to send my grandson clear to Olathe. So, you know, people are excited about getting something, amenities closer. And they always have been, and that's what we're trying to do. So, this developer has developed unbelievable amounts of stuff. He has developments in Colorado and Leawood and Overland Park, Olathe. So he's really conscious about making it so that it works for the community.
Will we be able to share, will the city be able to share anything in regards to 199th and Renner, or at least 199th and where that project is or a schedule? Because I know we've had a proposal in this area before that got squashed just because of the integrity of 199th.
Right.
There, no one
Right.
would support a development like this, but I feel like if we could get in front of this application with the community and showing 199th is being improved.
Right, yeah,
I think
and we have, they hired, BHC
Yeah.
to actually engineer it and all, and it is part of a CARS project. So yes, we would be able to, and really it's been talked about in the last 4 or 5 meetings, you know, as from at the governing body. So yes, we can, yeah,
And that would obviously be constructed prior to anything dirt moving here.
I doubt it.
199th wouldn't be.
I doubt it.
Really?
We're working in conjunction
Yeah.
with the developer now, but to be honest with you, Tom, he 96, I think, and he said, "Look, if I don't start moving dirt, you're going to just move the dirt and put me in it." So, and he's really a great
Yeah.
guy. So,
No, I think it's a great development.
Most
I just know
likely.
what squashed the last plan
Sure.
was 199th. There was no
Right.
plans for it. And
Right.
I'm just thinking if we can actually
I
be
understand.
proactive and be like,
Mhm.
we have plans, this is gonna happen, we can support a development like this.
Right. And we, yes, hopefully we'll have some preliminary draft drawings of what we had proposed there. I do know the last time I did talk to administration that there was still controversy on whether it was gonna have curbs on both sides. And then the truth, the bottom line of it is also, can we afford to do it? You know, curbs on both sides and things like that. You know, one day we can, the next we can't. So I'm not sure where that lays right now. But it is going to be constructed. But yes, to your point, yes, we will be able to. And I really do hope, and Tom's engineer, Mr. Phelps, or Phelps Engineering, I apologize, also hopes that we can get some plans to them immediately. You know, they're gonna go ahead and start working on the preliminary plat and all of it, as long as there's no big red flags tonight. And in doing that, we'll share the plans, and he's anxious to get the plans on it as well. Yes,
I assume that the light gray is the duplexes?
yes. And they're calling it,
My understanding is
villas, no?
that one of the major complaints at that
Right.
meeting and afterwards was that some people objected to those duplexes being on 199
They did.
and wanted them further back.
Yeah, they did. No, actually, they did object to the apartments being there and all. And there was some concern right across from them if, at the meeting, the lower red part there, they had actually changed to be apartments and duplexes and all,
Oh, okay.
directly across from Prairie Ridge.
Okay.
So what they've done now is they've taken and put that back to commercial like it's zoned now and brought those down.
All right.
But yes, you are correct. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
I guess my comment back to the city is, can you afford not to do the curbs and gutters? I'm sorry,
That'll have to go to administration.
I know,
You
but that's my comment back.
Right.
I'm serious.
Well, and I do know that the administrator met with the BHC out there and was discussing things. But I do agree with you. I think that without curbs, it's going to be very hard for us to place the trail system.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the truth. You know, that was the school, had been told, that this would be coming on and not to put the trail in yet. And now we're here, and we really, really need to get these connectivities.
Well, and we keep asking all these developers and all these other people to do this and do that, and do
Correct.
this and that, and then the city doesn't want.
Right. And I brought that up a few weeks ago, and, guys, before long, they're going to say, well, if you don't have to adhere to it, I'm not doing it here.
We need to start prioritizing our money and what our wishes are.
The council meeting is next Thursday, so. I can pass it on, you know how it is. But I will pass that a comment that we need to prioritize and do a better job at our CIP.
Well, I mean, if we're asking people that are coming to us, we need to follow suit with that.
Sure. And really, this developer, and I know the engineering firm also would love to see this go ahead and have curbs and things like that in there. You can control everything better, and also it will just help this development really get going on the right foot. I don't think there's going to be any doubt that once this dirt starts moving, that this area will build fairly rapidly.
Well, it seems to me that it's to our advantage to make at least one street in Spring Hill look appropriate. I mean,
Yes.
I'm surprised we ought to be doing a parkway kind of section there. I know we can afford it. but-
Well, and actually, we talked about going ahead and putting lanes on each side.
Yeah.
Leave the middle open for a parkway area,
Yeah.
not curb your middle, curb your outsides.
Yes.
I thought that was a great plan, but I have not, and I'll be, truth of the matter is, I've not seen any draft drawings on it, so I shouldn't say that what we're doing. So,
No, that makes sense.
199th there over by Brookwood Farms. I mean, it's nice, but
Yeah.
it's like it's our nicest road. But we have two
Yeah.
subdivisions coming off. Of
right,
Off of it,
And then
right?
we have all these other subdivisions that are just coming off of farm streets.
well, if they are that, holes this big in some of them, like, my goodness.
So what are the red asterisks?
I'm not sure what those are. Maybe Mr. Phelps can. Amenities. Thank you. Amenities.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know how that they do it without doing curb and gutter,
Who?
I don't
the development. How do you, along
Especially with that
199th Street, how do
Oh,
you?
right.
you don't
No, I,
Have curb and gutter, I mean,
no, exactly. I mean, that's, but
It's
just,
gonna be good too to get the school district to put that trail in now finally, because
Oh, that-
there's gonna be a lot of pushback about how are the kids walking to school here.
right. And I just spoke with, Don Margateer not very long ago. I say just, it was a month ago. And he's willing to put his monies in on that. Only thing he asks is to straighten out that debacle in front of him. that the city made him put in that is, can't believe that there hasn't been a head on there, you know? That's the only thing he said. He said, look, you tell me, I'll write the check or I'll do it. But it doesn't make sense for him to do it and then us try and do something to match. You might as well get everything in and then we go down through there. And at the time when the school district did everything, they were willing to, you know, go ahead at a future date and put that in. But it doesn't make any sense without curbs.
Yeah.
And you know the ditches out there and all. In my lens, if you'd have put it in now, who knows what would have been it probably would have been a mess. I will have to say that was one thing Mr. Hendershot was correct on, that not to put that in at this time. I know it, you know, we look back and say, oh, if that was in, people could walk, but, you know. And this is a street that we really, 199th as a whole need to concentrate on.
Yeah.
You know. So,
Development, I think it's great. It's lovely. It's got a little bit of everything, but I think the hurdle's gonna be 199th.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and really, I would have more apprehension to, what is there, 1,400 doors or something here. Well, it looks like 879 on this part. Units. So, yeah, there's probably 1,400 doors, and I'd be apprehensive to say, well, you know, but knowing that 199, something is getting done, completed with it through the city. What we don't know yet, but as soon as I know, you know, obviously I'll bring it to you guys and we will get it to Phelps Engineering. So overall, I wanted to bring it to you though, and make sure that, you know, there aren't any huge red flags here and that they could go ahead and start getting the preliminary plat together. It's not a voting item, it's just a consent item or a
Discussion item.
discussion item, but I mean, just everybody can say yay, nay, or hey.
I like it.
So.
I like it.
Yeah, good.
I appreciate the transparency.
Well, we do appreciate it, and I know that Mr. Phelps is here tonight, and I'm sure that they'll get started immediately on the preliminary plat and all before, in Tom's words, he dies, so. Thank you.
Okay, discussion item 3.
Oh, yeah, well, I better do that. So, at the last minute this evening, we received some calls that we're just gonna have to work out some stuff tomorrow. What it was is a truck plaza that we've been working on hard to get along the highway at 183rd Street. Tried to keep it in an area that's already industrial anyway, you know. And there's been some miscommunications apparently that were sent to me at the last minute today. I did talk to the representatives and hopefully we will be able to continue on with it, so. I apologize.
I have a question. Is there anything from the trails meeting that happened a couple weeks ago that came out of that, or did you go?
5 people showed up.
So nothing,
Well, you know, here's the other thing. The people are very busy. Everybody knows that. You guys are all busy, you know. I had one person call me and said, hey, you know, all these meetings and all this, we vote the people in to do the correct thing for us. We shouldn't have to go to meetings and beg that we get trail systems. We shouldn't have to go to meetings to beg that our streets get fixed and things like that. That was a comment that was brought to me by a person that, you know, she has 2 kids and her husband works nights and, you know, they're busy people. They would have liked to have gone. We have a meeting coming up tomorrow night. You're all welcome here at 6:30. It's on a annexation proposal maybe, along with sewer line extensions. And it'll be interesting to see how many shows up to that meeting. I've had 5 now that say, well, you know, we're not we'll try. But then they give me their comments, that have been pretty positive but really most people, I believe, are at a point that they just try and believe in their city leadership, the governing bodies, to do the correct thing for them. And hopefully with this comp plan and, we're seeing more and more plans that are willing to put in trails and, we're pushing them a little more and more to get to the park areas and things like that, we're trying to go alone at it, so.
Comp plan update?
I don't know, that would be Amy's cup of tea right now, I'm sorry. Amy can take.
The second survey is scheduled to go live on Monday, the 10th. And then our steering committee, we have about 19 people so far, including staff, that will be starting July 18th. And there's 4 altogether. And that's about it.
Were you guys pleased with what you got on the first one?
We were, I don't have the last count I got was probably a week or so ago, and we were about 309. So that was pretty good from where we were just a week prior.
Has there been any update on the Wolf Creek development there, or lack thereof? That's been pulled the last few meetings?
No,
Okay.
no, not to my knowledge.
Okay.
It might be Pat, but yep.
Cool.
Anybody have anything else to discuss? Entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.